Hi, I'm Mary Shanuda, private performance chef and founder of Fat Fudge, and you're watching Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
Hey, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with the incomparable, the unicorn, the amazing Mary Shanuda. Mary, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, that was so big. Thank you for having me on the show.
I'm thinking, I'm hearing that Richard Branson advice, which is, if someone asks you, can you do this? Your first answer is immediately, yes, I can, and then figure it out later. But how did you figure out that honesty is the best policy in your case?
Honesty is just a huge part of who I am as an identity, but I had an amazing boss that spanned on and off over a decade. His name is Jason Hahn. If you're watching, Jason Hahn, I miss you. He was a very quiet senior vice president, and when he spoke, people were really they're scared of him. And I initially wasn't on his team, but I always noticed him in meetings, and he would notice me, and sometimes he'd come over and say one or two things to help me with a deal, and I really respected that. And when I got the opportunity to work for him on his team, I loved it. And he taught me, one, to speak less, which I'm still working on, but also not knowing something is an opportunity to learn. And you need to know your stuff and tell me when you don't know something so we can fill in those gaps. And so we would go into our sales meetings and he could drill me and I would know everything until I didn't. And he's like, well, go figure that out. Great. He's very good at, if you say he'll keep asking you questions and uncover the fact that you're full of it. Mm-hmm. And so there was one particular meeting that we went in as a big team and I didn't know my stuff. And for some reason, I pretended like I knew something and he kept drilling me. And I'm like, you know what, dude, I just don't know. And he's like, then say that. It's not that difficult to just say that. I'm like, you're right. And I walk out and the team's like, dude, he was such an asshole to you. I'm like, you thought he was an asshole? I was the asshole. I showed up not knowing my stuff.
Yeah, you were fronting.
And I'm like, and that is such a poor reflection on my skill set, my ability, my integrity. And he really taught me that there's no shame in not knowing.
Yeah. That's huge, actually. There's so much there I want to break down and unpack a little bit, but that's sort of the essence, isn't it? I mean, a lot of advice that we hear, fake it till you make it, for example, is one I can think of. And maybe that works in some instances. But we're super glad that the pilot flying our plane is not faking it till she makes it or he makes it, right? But it's also very hard to admit when you don't know something, because then you might not get the same opportunity, or maybe how many of us, and I'm just asking rhetorically, are fronting? Mm-hmm. How many of us are just, inflating our resumes or our ego or whatever, for whatever reasons? It's a good gut check. Mm-hmm. It's risky though too.
It is risky, but also not every opportunity is your opportunity. Don't be so thirsty for opportunity. Drink from every cup that's given to you. And so when I go into situations where I'm like, I'll take the role, I'll be figuring it out. But I think people bet on Mary, when she says she's going to figure it out, she's going to figure it out. So I trust her with the project, even if I don't think she has the experience, because I know she's going to acquire that experience. It just speaks to the micro legacy that I'm creating.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to my own experience. When I was working for somebody else, I've been doing what I'm doing for 10 years. So I still have a boss. It's the audience, and other things. But I remember fronting a lot, mainly because I didn't trust the other person to make such a good management or leadership decision. I worked for
Can you give me an example?
I worked for a couple of different people who were very insecure. Mm-hmm. And I was very ambitious. But at the same time, I didn't know everything, or probably anything is fair to say. But if I would have said the exact truth of, my breadth of experience or knowledge, I don't think that person would have given me opportunities, because they were afraid that it might reflect badly on them.
Sure. I definitely, if we're talking 18, 19, 20, 21, saying I don't know did not serve me well.
I mean, even, in my 20s and 30s, even now, I still have that same thing. But maybe one thing to consider is, honesty is the best policy, any way you slice it. But it should also be taking into consideration who you're being honest with, because that person also has choices, right? And they may or may not make the best one.
Sure.
For the situation.
So if we want to like get split hairs, there was one of my first not big cooking, really big named clients called me, asked me to cook for him and some gentlemen. And I actually had a different gig, and I called the other client and I'm like, I care about you, you're going to Whole Foods tonight, I got to take this opportunity. And what they wanted me to cook, I had never cooked before. And so, we want you to make caribou that was hunted. My response is, I can do that. Not I've never done it before, not I'm not sure. Okay, it's like, I can do that. And so I'm in the kitchen cooking and trying to figure, I'm like looking at the meat, trying to figure out, okay, this is really dry. How do I cut it? What dish am I going to do? And I talked to myself in the kitchen, and I thought I was alone. And I was in the oven, and I was talking to my hunter's pie, shepherd's pie, and I go, man, I hope you turn out okay. And he was behind me, goes, what? And I go, oh, I've never cooked caribou before. And he goes like, you said you can do it. I'm like, bro, I can do this. I understand food. I just hadn't done this before. Trust. And he's like, oh, like my friends are going to be here. And it came out amazing. They came back for seconds and thirds. They were super happy. All the men were talking, they got quiet because they were eating. And it wasn't dishonest. I can do this. Haven't had experience with it, but I can. So that's like one example where I'm being truthful.
Yeah.
Strategically.
Yeah. So what are we doing here?
I'm going to make you a prebiotic, probiotic power smoothie. Last summer, Nike gave me this great opportunity to create the cafe of my dreams with this 10-week pop-up, and this was one of the absolute fan favorites. And part of the process of the cafe, which they found really fun, is I'd hand somebody what they're having. So in this case, a prebiotic, probiotic smoothie. I'm like, do you know what prebiotic is? And they're like, nope. I'm like, well, let me tell you first. So most people are familiar with probiotics, with gut flora,
Right.
but they feed on prebiotics to keep them alive. So you can have them together.
Did not know that.
So the prebiotic we have here is tiger nut flour, a resistant starch of some sort. Our probiotic is a dairy-free yogurt, Koyo. And then we've got strawberries, we've got collagen, almond butter, and then we're gonna do a scoop of the strawberry power fat fudge that has cordyceps, beets in this with the tahini and the butter as well.
Let's do it.
Really complex. You put everything in the blender and you go. You can help with this. Everything's pre-measured. You want to just dump them in here.
And what is this?
That is a dairy-free probiotic yogurt.
Yeah. Love it.
And then this is the tiger nut flour, this is the prebiotic. This is almond butter. And it tastes a little bit like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Love it.
And you can do your milk of choice for doing an unsweetened vanilla almond milk. If you're doing a regular almond, cashew, whatever you choose, if it doesn't have vanilla in it, adding vanilla to this adds just a really nice texture to it, or a dimension of the flavor. Do we get it close for the blend?
I got it, Rhino.
Okay.
Cool.
And then if you want it thicker, you would use fully frozen strawberries. Let me know what you think.
Are we gonna drink together? Is this just enough for one? I didn't see that.
We're keeping it real. Cheers to your gut health.
It's good. It's really good.
So it's got, like I said, prebiotic, probiotic, you've got your fat, you've got your protein, you've got beets, you've got cordyceps, which is a functional nut mushroom that I like to use in place of coffee. So it's power without caffeine.
So is this pre-workout?
This would be a great pre-workout, yeah. A recovery one would be with the Adapt Fat Pledge that has the reishi and ashwagandha in it. And that would lower fat, higher protein.
Yeah, so this has, this, I would have liked frozen strawberries because I like to eat my smoothie.
I like this food in mine.
Yeah, but it's still delicious.
Yeah, yeah. So if the strawberries were super frozen, it would have been thicker, and then you just use less liquid for it to be thicker as well.
What fruit can I not use in this? Like no bananas?
One, I just like the flavor of this. It reminds me of the milkshake I would have like at McDonald's as a kid.
Mhm.
There's that emotional aspect to it. But berries are lower on the glycemic index. So I'll do that.
Blueberries, blackberries.
Yeah, for that. I don't think there's anything wrong with bananas. Just don't. It's in a banana diet, I guess. If I were doing bananas, I would probably go cacao banana. So we did. We also did a beet smoothie, which was beets, cacao, and bananas.
Yeah, definitely really good. Tastes like a frozen yogurt or some sort of smoothie.